Hello, this is Ken Ferry with this week's Boots in the Field. Start out with a crop report, as usual, to look into the south, and we're calling the south, I guess, from Maroa south. A lot of guys are looking to finish up the crop in general by the weekend, so that's pretty good news for them. To put this one in the books, here in the midsection, I guess you would say we're about 80 to 90% done with beans and about 30% done with corn. Again, southern McLean County, northern DeWitt County, yields are hanging in there pretty good. There are some dry spots that got us knocked around a little bit, but I think everybody's seeing better yields than they expect. I talked to Gary Rabideau up at Ritchie Grain in Wilmington, and he says they're about 95% done with beans. And the beans right now, according to their numbers at the elevator, are about 2 bushel to the acre under where they were last year, so that's pretty good. They're only about 25% done with corn. At the same time last year, he said they were 95% done with corn, so it kind of gives you a perspective of how they're doing and how I guess the whole area is doing compared to last year. He thought the beans are going to be in that 60 bushel range. The corn yields are strong, and even the replanted spots that are coming in are strong in yield as well, so he's encouraged that they got a lot of good corn ahead of them. Slide on over to Iroquois County. Talked to Fred at Donovan Co-op. He thinks they're about 80% done with the soybeans. They're sitting on a 3-inch rain delay right now. The soybeans are in that 50 to 70 bushel range until you get north and east in that belt that's having a lot of trouble there. 30 to 40 bushel beans up there. Still got a long way to go on the corn, but it looks like the corn's going to be 200 plus for them as well. So that's exciting. Plot harvest, as well as have been kind of slowed up here with the rains. We're kind of in the middle of it, approaching maybe the halfway mark. This week we did take some more planting studies out on soybeans, studies where we started April 10th and went to May 29th. And just as a lot of you guys are reporting in, the plot showed the same thing with the same variety planted every week. We started in the mid-80s and we drifted on down to the mid-60s with the last planting the last week in May. And we'll look at that in more detail with we put all these studies together, but definitely supports what a lot of you guys are talking about, your early April beans doing better than your mid-May beans itself. Got some areas where it looks like nitrogen's going to make a pretty big difference as well as we work on our nitrogen plots. Kind of depends on what your spring conditions were and maybe how much trouble you got into there, but seeing some good responses to the nitrogen on some of those plot fronts. We are getting some reports in on corn standability slipping away on us. Some corn starting to go down. In some cases with the wind last Saturday, knocking some fields down itself. Some fields aren't going to take much if conditions turn against us as we pick up some wind. And of course that's following up on this moisture as well. And time is just showing its wear and tear on this crop as well. Did have a couple, 3 reports of dropped ears where corn is dropping ears on the ground. And in all cases, it's actually been non-traded corn. And the drop here is coming from corn borer. So that's something we haven't talked about in a long time is dropped ears due to corn borer damage itself. All along, though, you're going to have to keep up your scouting for standability and scouting for ear drop. As we, especially you guys in the north where we got 70, 80% of this corn crop left to come out, we got to pay attention to which fields are going to be the highest on priority from week to week. So don't forget to keep up with the scouting. Tillage is rolling along in a lot of areas, and guys are getting their tillage caught up even behind the combines. Don't forget, again, for you guys that need soil testing, we'd like to get the soil testing done before you put the tillage to it. But one thing I want to remind you, vertical till guys out there that are be running harrows instead of soil finishers next spring, remember we need full width shatter in that top 4 to 6 inches of the soil. So as we pick up these rains and we lose some traction out of that, you got to be careful when we start shallowing up machines that you're still getting the full width shatter. So the only way to make sure that's happening, of course, is get off the machine and get behind it, do some digging, make sure we're getting the full width shatter that we're looking for itself. Got a lot of guys filling in gullies from last spring's rains. And we talked about that some this spring when those rains were taking place. We carved up a lot of fields. Now, of course, if these are tilled fields, that's not as big a deal. You're tilling through it and you're filling in the gullies. In some cases, though, we had gullies in a lot of no-till and strip-till fields that had to be filled in this fall or will be filled in this fall. Now, one of the things we talked about it earlier this year, but you might think if these are fields that are giving you perennial problems every time we get those kind of rainfalls, that one, maybe there should be a waterway there. But in some of these gullies, maybe you could put in a farmable waterway, something you could farm through, which means that after you get them filled in, let's go out there right now and seed them to sorrel, rye, or wheat. So we can get some growth on that. Let that growth go next spring so we get some protection out of that, and then just farm right through it. In a situation where, from a herbicide standpoint, we can kill that before we plant or we can kill it after we plant. Granted, we're going to have a little issue there with some antagonism with the grass crop if you're going to corn, but that's a lot less of an issue than dealing with these gullies that we have to deal with throughout the year. And we got a number of growers that are doing this and have been doing this as a farmable waterway. Seed it down right now, again, to sorrel, rye, or just wheat if you've got it, and let it get established, and then just farm right through that. Plant your crop through it next spring, and then, again, kill it when whatever size you want to kill it at. So if you want it to be a foot tall, kill it at a foot. You want it 2 foot tall, kill it at 2 foot. But keep them waterways or those runs in place so that soil doesn't get away from us. Many fields out there are turning green, not just from harvest loss, but from our winter annuals. It's time to start the fall burn downs for you guys in no-till and strip-till. The last few years, you could just drive through the countryside in the spring and knew exactly who'd put a fall burn down on and who didn't, by how much growth and how fast the growth was coming on itself. When we do our fall burn downs in our no-till and strip-till, it helps us to get more timely in the spring and get a lot better kill with our annual burn down or our spring burn down itself. While it does a pretty good job holding back the chickweed and the henbit, the big problem is the new weed that we learned to hate, mare's tail. That's a situation. The mare's tail has become the weed to hate, especially in reduced and no-till conditions, because we can't get it stopped. And if we don't get it stopped in the pre-plant situation, trying to have a post product to go back and take it out is kind of hard itself. So when it comes to mare's tail, the saying is you need to start clean and stay clean. That's really true for mare's tail. Too many times we're no-tilling into a field and the mare's tail is not dead. It's just been weakened, and when it comes back to life, we've got a problem there that is almost destined for a hook or the combine later in that season itself. Don't get me wrong, a winter burn down is not going to eliminate mare's tail, but it's going to clean up a lot of the mare's tail that's given us trouble. In the spring of the year, when we come back for our spring burn down, we still got to clean up all the mare's tail that germinated late in the year or germinated in the spring, but they're all going to be the same size. So we got small mare's tail, and they're easy to clean up. It's the 2.5, 3, 4 inch tall mare's tail that start to give us a lot of fits. So it's kind of a grouping in that process itself. And it's always the big ones that give us the biggest challenge. So for that weed alone, it's probably worth it, but knowing that you can start, especially if you want to start planting earlier, you can start with a cleaner field and less work for your spring burn down to do. But remember, a fall burn down does not eliminate a spring burn down. We're still going to have to be there, but we got more time with it. And it's not going to be very effective on water hemp because that seed's already germinated for the most part. So if you are going beans on beans next year in a field that got away from you for water hemp this year, and you plan on using a winter burn down to help you with your water hemp problem next year, you're going to be disappointed because it's just not the right timing for that. But if you're beans on beans next year and you're fighting a mare's tail problem this year, then going to a winter burn down, adding a winter burn down to your program, you're going to like that. It's going to help you manage that mare's tail a lot easier, as well as, of course, the chickweed and the henbit. But for water hemp, it's probably not that effective. Don't think that just adding a winter burn down is going to fix your water hemp problems, because it won't. One question that I haven't got this week, and I think it's a good thing that I haven't got it, is that question, temperatures have dropped. Can we start our fall anhydrous? And I've been waiting for it, but nobody's asked it, so that's a good sign that we're not even thinking about it. But I know as this weather changes, it will. So remember when we talked about the 4R Code of Ethics that some of you guys have signed on for, a lot of your retailers have signed on to the 4R Code of Ethics as try to help or protect our environment. The 4R Code of Ethics states that we will not apply fall anhydrous until the maximum daily temperature goes below 50, and the forecast is that it'll stay there. Not 50-degree temperatures at the 4-inch level for 2 or 3 hours like we saw in some places this week. We're talking about maximum. We're not talking about average. We're not talking about minimum. We're talking about maximum temperatures that would stay down there, which is going to push this application typically well into November. Doesn't always stay below that 50 degrees, and a situation meaning that if we pick the first day that we have a maximum temperature below 50 degrees and start without a forecast that's going to keep it there for a week, 10 days, it's a situation where we're going to get ourselves in trouble. So let's not get stupid with this thing. Everyone toe the line. That way I won't have to get on my soapbox like I did last fall. Katie says everybody's doing good at calling their acres in behind the combine, so let's keep that up so our crew can clean them up. We can get those wrecks turned around and back to you. With that, keep her safe, keep her moving.